Hi, this is Tom Pizzato.
And Dan Silvestri.
Join us as we're cracking the code of spy movies. Check us out at our website, spymovienavigator.com. Please subscribe to our show through your favorite podcast app. Now, we're going to start releasing these Cracking the Code of Spy Movies quickfire episodes shortly after we see a new spy movie. We'll still focus on the interrelationships that happen between the new film and prior movies, as well as real-life events. So let's look at the November 2019 release of the movie Charlie's Angels. Now, this one's a bit interesting for us, as we wouldn't have examined the earlier Charlie's Angels movies from the early 2000s because they advertised themselves as detective movies. The marketing around this version in 2019 was heavily around calling these women spies.
Yeah, and I wish they would have called them detectives again, because then we wouldn't have seen this movie.
Well, come on, Dan, you've already seen the movie, as we're going to get into in a minute.
All right.
Now, the beginning of this actually hammers home a girl power theme. This was written, produced, directed, and acted by Elizabeth Banks, and she really took this towards this whole girl power thing. And that might be a potential reason why the box office for the opening weekend was considered a flop, at least according to Elizabeth Banks. We're going to talk more about the box office a little bit later, but this girl power theme runs throughout the movie.
Yeah, like Tom's saying, there is a pre-title sequence, of course, because it's popular in other spy movies. And quite frankly, my opinion is, if you've seen other spy movies, you've seen this movie. Anyway, there is a pre-title sequence where they show how strong these women are and how they could just beat the hell out of evil men, which is important in this movie. And just the plot line, so you know what the movie's about. It involves an energy system called Callisto that can bring clean energy to the world. But Elena, one of the main characters, the key programmer for this program, Callisto, she thinks there's a flaw in the programming and that Callisto could be weaponized and used to assassinate people by disrupting the neural network of a person's body, and that it could be triggered remotely. So that's what the movie's about.
And that theme there really reminded me of Mission Impossible 2. You had the Chimera virus that was actually created to create a virus so that the antidote that they had already created, Bellerophon, could actually be sold. And that thing went, and this virus would take over people and end up eventually killing them. They had the antidote, and there were people trying to stop the antidote from happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in this film that you have seen in other spy films.
Or from other real-life things, like the main adversary's name.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the movie, the main adversary is the boss. What's his name, Dan?
Peter Fleming.
Oh, let's see. Where might we have heard that before?
Now, we've all heard of Fleming, I'm sure. Ian Fleming, of course, who wrote all the Bond novels. His brother actually was Peter Fleming. So, okay.
Is that a little homage to our great friend Ian Fleming?
Yeah, I guess it's an homage to him. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, I didn't look at it as an homage. I looked at it as a cheap little way out of, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to look at it with a positive light and say
good.
They were giving him credit.
And I'd agree with you, except then we'd both be wrong.
All right, now this movie, if you're familiar with the TV show or from prior movies, you have the Angels, who are the three main characters, and you've got a character named Bosley, who's kind of like the Angels' boss, and then there's somebody named Charlie, who actually controls everything from this.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Stewart plays one of the Bosleys, and John Bosley, and he's going to retire. And so they have a retirement party for him. And this little scene here kind of reminded me a lot of the Kingsman. When an agent dies in the Kingsman, they all get together, there's holograms, and they all toast.
Yeah.
Well, here, instead of holograms, they had these video clips of other Bosleys toasting this Bosley and wishing him farewell.
Yeah. So, once again, something you've seen in another spy movie. And again, they're showing all these images and clips from the past, like they did in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yep, absolutely.
When they were introducing George Lazenby as the new Bond, they had, for consistency, through the martini glass, showing Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger clips, Thunderball.
Now, the important part of that, though, is if you didn't know those other movies, it wouldn't have affected your viewing of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. If you didn't know the other Charlie's Angels stuff, seeing those things wouldn't necessarily impact your viewing of it. So the person like you and I who saw the TV series have a different feel than somebody who may not have.
Just saying that for the producers and directors and everything else involved, everyone else involved in this thing, this stuff's been done before. That's all I'm saying.
I have a feeling I'm going to hear a theme from you on that.
Yeah.
Now,
and where does it open up? It opens up in Rio de Janeiro. But where do the angels travel? Exotic places? No. Why would they go to? No, they do. They go to Istanbul. Who went to Istanbul? I mean, From Russia with Love is in Istanbul. There's a lot of stuff in Istanbul. Where else did they go? Rio de Janeiro, Istanbul, Hamburg,
Berlin.
Yeah. They're not in Chicago. They're not in Peoria, Illinois. No, they're going to exotic places just like every other spy went. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So another thing that is a tie back to the TV series is you see a speakerphone or a box, the speakerphone, and you've got Charlie's voice coming out. So remember that the angels report to Bosley, Bosley reports to Charlie, and you never see Charlie's face. It's only a voice that's coming out of the speakerphone. Now, there's a twist at the end around the girl power stuff. I'm not going to give that away, but that's another tie back to the original show. Now, in the original show, they also had some pretty cheesy dialogue, and boy, this film...
They replicated
They
it.
had a lot of that. I mean, you've got a scene where somebody's getting chased and there's gunfire and they're like, "Oh my God, you're not a waitress." Right?
Oh, yeah. Right.
And is that a tank? They're shooting at us. I'm like, they leave a restaurant where the one girl thought, one of the angels was playing a waitress. Right. And it's like, come on. Or the other one, and the one that just really slayed me was, you had a person in my Louis the 14th. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a quip kind of a thing you'd get out of some of the other things. That sounded like a Bobcat Goldthwait line.
Their quips failed miserably. They were, and actually they weren't delivered all that well either. I mean, they're written poorly and delivered poorly in many cases. But of course, there's the mandatory car chase scene, and the car, the bad guy's car, it's got the mounted machine gun, and
kind of looks like a Tommy
gun.
Not
exactly as much finesse as Q's stuff for Bond, but of course they had to have this built-in machine gun thing chasing him.
I actually thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, after he unloads 1,000 rounds, he finally hits a window of the car. I mean,
well, he's not aiming; he's driving.
But the same stuff happens in Bond too, so I'm going to let that go.
Yeah. Well, and in these car chase scenes, first they've got some pretty high-powered cars. They've got some high-end Audis. They've got Lamborghinis in there. The Lamborghini ends up in the river. Let's see, where did we just see that?
The car chase scene that lands in the river.
Inspector,
wasn't that? Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, another thing we've seen in other movies, but that's okay. That's okay.
Now, another kind of whole area that spy movies tend to have are gadgets.
Yeah.
And the first gadget we actually see is this camera lens mounted to a cell phone. Sabina, who's the character played by Kristen Stewart, she has this thing on her mobile phone, and those things actually exist. You can get those today, so that's not a really high tech gadget, but it's really kind of the first thing. But when we think about gadgets in Mission Impossible, you had Jack as the Q type character from the Bond movies. You've got Q characters from the Bond movies. You've got the person who kind of introduces the gadgets to the spies. And in this case, it's a guy they call the Saint. And this guy does more than just the gadgets. He rubs their back.
He has a lot of talents.
Yes, and he cooks.
But he's a cute type guy.
Yeah.
But he does. He cooks. He's a masseuse. He's everything. He's everything
for these women, right? So the gadgets in this movie aren't numerous, though. There's only a few of them that they use. There's the gun that we just talked about in the car chase scene. We have one scene where Sabina uses peel-off fingerprints. Dan, where have we seen that before?
Oh, yeah, peel-off fingerprints. Now, this is unique. This is something the first time you've ever seen in a movie.
You're cynical about this one.
I mean, this was incredible in Charlie's Angels here. A peel-off fingerprint, which is, I mean, come on. Oh, wait. Diamonds Are Forever, they used that. What year was that? 1971? Okay. All right. So it's several decades later, 50 years later or whatever. And, I got an idea.
Hey, but I bet when you went to Spyscape, I bet you saw stuff that were still being used today that were used 50 years ago.
Yeah, that's good. But we're supposed to be entertained here in a movie, and okay. All right, I'm going to back off a little bit on all this stuff because I'm going to ease up. Because there were a couple of parts that were good.
Well, and the other thing is, part of what we're trying to do in our podcasts are point out these similarities. All of these spy movies have stuff they've, and I'll put in quotes, borrowed from other movies. Well, right? This one seems to be the whole movie, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you've seen spy movies before, you've seen this movie.
And
anyway,
to that point, we have the gadget room. Right?
Yeah.
So for those of you who saw The Kingsman.
The closet.
Yeah.
They call it the closet, the gadget room thing. Yeah. Oh, so Tom, are you going to point something out here?
Yes. So in The Kingsman, right, you have the room where you go and you get your suit and your shoes and that, and then they have the thing that they open up and all the guns and ammunition and the gadgets are there.
Don't tell me they have one in this movie.
They have one in this movie, and instead of the nice suit, it's all women's clothing.
Yeah,
stylish
bulletproof bras.
Yeah, very.
They come in handy.
Again, it's a girl power thing, so it's appropriate, right? But again, been there, done that.
Yes.
Now there's an assassin in this one, and his name is Hodak, and he's played by Jonathan Tucker. And to me, he had an eerie resemblance to T-1000 in Terminator 2, the character played by Robert Patrick.
All right.
Whenever we saw him, I mean, he was tatted up in Terminator 2, he wasn't, but this character was tatted up, but he had the same kind of expression and the same kind of drive. And throughout every time we saw him, I kept thinking back to that character in Terminator 2.
Yeah. Well, and then it continues. I love the scene where there's 6 of these prototypes of the Callisto thing in the vault, in their safe. Right. And they got to get in there. The angels have to get in there somehow and get these out because they needed to do that. We're not going to tell you everything that happened in the movie. Go see the movie if you want, and so on. So this was a beautiful scene. Tom will sum up that scene and how unique this particular scene is when the angels, 3 of them are going in there with Elena.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this was definitely another one of those, I wonder where they got that idea scene. So,
really, Tom? So come on.
So the 3 women are dressed identically.
Oh.
They've got the same wig.
Yeah.
The interesting thing to me is their skin tones are different. Yeah. So the security guards watching on camera, I kind of thought it was a little humorous that they didn't catch that.
They go out of their way to show a lot of them from the back.
Yeah. But the security guys are trying to figure out which one is this Elena character. And they don't know that it's not the same one. But all of a sudden, Elena's on floor 5, then she's on floor 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, how is she doing this? And they're seeing this thing where it looks like it's the same person in all these different places.
Which I thought was unique. No one has ever done this kind of thing in a movie.
Except,
wait.
Maybe the Thomas Crown Affair with Pierce Brosnan.
Holy cripe.
Right? They do the same thing in that movie as well.
Yeah.
Right? So this and it was done actually really well in the Thomas Crown Affair,
and
it made
this
one look like a little bit more of a low budget version of it.
Yeah. Okay, so it's mere coincidence.
Yeah. Now another thing that I thought was kind of coincidental was the fight scene in the bathroom stall.
Oh yeah.
So there's a fight scene in the bathroom stall, and I was thinking, okay, where have we seen fight scenes in spy movies before, or really other movies?
Nowhere, Tom. This is unique stuff they're coming up with here.
Let's see. Mission Impossible Fallout had an amazing one.
Oh, yeah.
Although that used more of the bathroom. The interesting thing about this was just the stall.
It was just in the stall.
So there's an Austin Powers where there's kind of like that. But you've also
Casino Royale.
You have Casino Royale.
You got a little, big bathroom scene there. But this one was just a stall. Yeah. So that part was unique.
And then you've got, Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li in 2009. You've got True Lies. There's a fight in the bathroom. The Matrix has this. The Man from Nowhere. Terminator 3. Heck, even the B movie in 2007, that animated movie, has a fight scene in a bathroom.
Yeah, and we met the director of that movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
We went to his wedding.
Yeah, we went to his wedding. And so what you're saying here, Tom, is they came up with something unique.
Yeah, well, I guess their twist was it was only in the stall.
Yeah. Pretty soon it'll be only in the urinal or something. I don't know. This is okay. All right. So the movie continues.
Well, wait. We're talking about a fight scene in the bathroom. There's other fight scenes in this movie that we've seen before.
Yes.
Right? There's
a million fight scenes in this movie.
Yeah, you've got them running on top of equipment and jumping from a piece of equipment to a piece of equipment outside. Let's see, where might we have seen that?
They're in a stone quarry.
Yeah.
And they're jumping from one scaffolding kind of thing or crane kind of thing to another. Geez, I don't know. I had to really think hard on this one.
I'm thinking there might have been a Bond with that.
There might have been a Bond movie like that in 2006. Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
And then what? Oh, then they're on a they're fighting on a conveyor belt that delivers
rocks
big stones
that are going to get crunched
into a crusher, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and then boom, they're falling. Of course, they fall into the crusher, and where have we seen something like that before?
I'm not sure, Dario. Where have we seen that before?
Oh, Dario dies. Wait a minute.
In License to Kill.
License to Kill. All right, so that was 1989.
So been there, done that, seen it before.
Okay, we're rolling.
Yeah. So there's other uses of cameos. I talked about cameos before. I forgot to bring this up. At the end of the movie, they're training Elena for stuff, and they've got some cameos in there that I actually kind of liked. They had very strong women, real life women, in teaching Elena stuff. And so look quickly. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but they're in there, and that I actually thought that was
kind of fun.
I actually kind of liked.
There were a couple of scenes in the movie where it was kind of fun, and you know the racetrack. There's a scene with a racetrack. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I think there was a couple of things like that where you thought, okay, it's kind of fun, and it was amusing for about 5 minutes. And so yeah, I'm giving him credit for that.
And we see a death where somebody gets impaled. On an ice sculpture.
Oh, yeah, Tom. Not only are they taking,
themes,
are they adopting scenes from other movies? Yeah, this guy gets thrown off a balcony, and he lands on a table with ice sculpture things or something, and one of them is a big kind of horn or
a pointy thing.
He gets impaled on that. And wait a minute.
What's the line?
She says he got the point.
Oh, like in Thunderball.
Now that... Oh, wait a minute. Holy God, yes. Wait a minute. I was thinking this was unique. No, Thunderball, when he shoots Vargas, right? Vargas, I think. Yeah. Right. With the spear gun, he says, I think he got the point.
Yeah. So it's not even just the scenes, the dialogues are getting paid homage to. All right, so we're going to kind of wrap up kind of talking about these similarities in these movies right now. Our goal here is to kind of give you a quick hit. Obviously, this was not Dan and I's favorite movie, but I will also say I don't think we were the target audience. Dan and I are a couple of middle-aged gentlemen that were around who saw the TV show, and who on the TV show we lived at the time they called it Jiggle TV. Mm-hmm. And this movie is trying to pull away from that with these characters. And it actually does that. And so Elizabeth Banks, who wrote this thing, she said, there's a quote she has where she says, if this movie doesn't make money, it reinforces a stereotype in Hollywood that men don't go to see women do action movies. Right? And so that's kind of her thought. So her thinking, I think, is, I'm not creating this movie for Dan and Tom.
And that could be. That's fine. Could be.
So it'll be interesting to see. When we were in the theater, there were 6 people in it.
Yeah,
now,
total.
It was a 12:30 on a Monday matinee show, so I'll give them that. And there were 6 people. 4 were male, 2 were female. So and they were
a statistically irrelevant point, but okay,
whatever. All right. So it'll be interesting to see if this thing gets legs with the teen to mid-20s women. And so we did a podcast that we called The Spies Who Loathed Me about James Bond. We talked a lot about box office. And the headlines here in November when this Charlie's Angels movie released are talking about how big a flop it is. So on opening weekend, this movie cost $48 million to make. In the U.S., it only opened with $8.3 million.
Yeah.
With the 3 lead female characters in this thing. Worldwide gross is 27.6 million. Are we too far removed from the TV show that the TV show fans are going to come and see this? Because who are the fans of that show? We don't know.
I don't know who's going to come to see this.
If we look at more current female-led spy movies and look at the box office.
Which I think they're trying to capitalize on.
But it's interesting because Red Joan came out. They released it at film festivals, and it really had, opening weekend for that movie was only $38,000, right? In Anna, which came out in 2019, opening weekend was $3.6 million. So actually worse than what Charlie's Angels did. So you're thinking maybe Elizabeth has a point. But then we move to something like Red Sparrow, which had $16.8 million on opening. Yeah. Atomic Blonde opened with $18.2 million.
Yeah, those are good movies.
The original Charlie's Angels movies in 2000 and 2003 opened with $40 million gross and $37.6 million gross. So either something big has happened in the last couple of years with the putting the female spies in, or they're just missing the mark.
Yeah, I think they're missing the mark. It's fun. They do promote the strong women in this film, which is great. It's all terrific stuff. There's a lot of other similarities that we're not going to tell you about because some of them are major similarities that you're going to go, oh yeah. Holy gee! But we're not going to tell you that because they're. If you're listening to this podcast and you're a younger listener,
you might not catch all the nuances or the non-nuanced copying that was being done in this film from other movies.
You've seen some of the other major spy movies in the last 10 years. You're gonna say, oh yeah.
But if you take either of our daughters who are in their mid-20s, right? You take either of them, they probably don't have the Charlie's Angels background. They probably don't have as thorough of a Bond understanding as we do, or a Mission Impossible understanding. So they may actually appreciate it.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, we'll see. All right, I'm gonna let it go at that.
All right.
So anyway, that's all we're gonna tell you about this movie. Obviously, you could tell Tom and I really loved it, and. And we would highly recommend you think strongly about going to see it. But if you're the target audience, hey, go ahead.
As we go forward and we continue these quick fire episodes that we're creating here, we'll keep them going, and they're not going to all be this negative, right? This is just the first one we happen to see.
We're just being honest. Yeah. We're just showing you where these things came from. That's all. And then that's what we do. We're looking for connections between these movies and how one impacts another.
Just not expecting the whole movie to be
The whole movie was impacted by everything that happened before it.
So thanks for joining us as we continue cracking the code of spy movies with our first quick fire episode. This is Tom Pizzato.
And Dan Silvestri.
From SpyMovieNavigator.com. Spy movie podcasts, videos, discussions, and more. Please continue to listen to our podcasts and subscribe to our show through your favorite podcast app.